Hello and welcome to another Black Crow video about Emperor's Children. Uh, this week we're doing a detachment focus on the Carnival of Excess detachment. I'm Sam, Black Crow Gaming's like melee expert. I've been doing a lot of a series on Emperor's Children, so if this is the first one that you're seeing, go check out my other ones. I've got two other detachment focuses. I've got tier list, got lots of Emperor's Children content. But if there's something that you want to see from me, please put it in the comments. Let me know. If you really want to grab my attention, there's also super thanks you can do. If someone does one of those and things, I'll be very much incentivized to do what you say within reason. Not making any promises. But yeah, so today's all about the Carnival Excess. So let's hop straight in to talk about the detachment rule. So the detachment rule is you get 1,000 points of demons. It's obviously only Slanesh demons. We're Emperor's Children, of course, and it's a very limited selection. We're talking, I believe it is off the top of my head, Shalaxi, Keeper of Secrets, Demonettes, Seekers, Fiends. That's it. Is the five. So when you're for the detachment rule, because obviously it's not just you get demons, because the demons don't necessarily interact with each other. So when you get a when you have your units near each other, so if an Emperor's Children unit is near a Demonette unit, or sorry, a Demons unit in general, then they both become empowered. If they're empowered, they get sustained hits. If they've already got sustained hits, they get crit fives, which also then procs things like lethal. But yeah, so it's a really finessey army where you want to be keeping your army near each other. You want to be spreading out your units so that they can tag each other and buff everyone. But generally, it's quite a uh, interesting dynamic to play the army. You need to run it sort of like as a not necessarily as a ball, but in unison with each other. There's no I just throw that unit over there by itself and it'll be fine. I mean, it might be. It depends on what else is over there, but like to get the most out of your army, you wanting things next to each other because also most of the strats interact with each other. It's weird conditions, which I'll try and cover now. So the stratagems. So you've got obviously like any detachment, you've got six stratagems. This set, I don't know. There's some really interesting ones in one of my previous videos. I did talk about one of these strats, which I will get to. But it's an interesting set. It's like there's nothing that's like, oh, you're just going to use this every turn. They're all quite situational. There's going to be some really key times that you're going to use something and it's going to score you a bunch of points or put you in the right position to win the game. But also at times it's like, well, I might play a couple of games and not use that strat at all, right? So first one being you can restore 3 wounds to a demon unit or revive D3+3 demonettes, but only when you kill a unit in combat with an Emperor's Children unit. So you you can't just pick something across the board. I think it's within 6. So your Emperor's Children unit goes into combat, kills something, and goes, okay, that Demonette unit that's lost half its guys, okay, revive some of those models. So this could be really useful to sort of take over OC of an objective, maybe slightly stretch out a aura for that 6 inch for like the next unit being able to see to get within that empowerment. It's kind of a like I say, it's very situational. Like you're going to use it when it's important, but it's how often is it going to be that important? I think it could be really good, especially if maybe your opponent's shot a unit of yours and then you've like interrupted the fight there and you killed theirs, and then there's going to be some interesting situations where you're like, I get to use this now. It is only 1 CP as well. It's quite a nice little thing, but yeah. Demonet's only being 1 OC in this book of what like they're not as impactful when it comes to like, oh, you can revive 4 models. That's 8 OC on an objective. Suddenly you've flipped the objective so that now your opponent doesn't score it and you score it for a secondary or something, right? Like that might happen, but it will only be 4 OC, not 8 OC. if you're reviving 4 models. Um, and you've got to remember when you're reviving models that every model being revived has to be fully in coherency of the models that are currently on the board alive. So if you have 6 models and then you start reviving them, each one of your ones that you revive has to be within 2 inches of 2 of your original models. And if you only have 1 model left, you've got to literally like put a circle around them wherever all your new models are, because you can't sort of stretch out based on that. So yeah, that's the first stratagem. The second one we have, this is the combo one. So this is one which I think you'll be trying to use every game, but whether you actually pull it off is you'll see. But it's only 1 CP, which is really good in my opinion. You get to charge an Emperor's Children unit after a demon unit kills an enemy in combat that it is also in combat with. So the way I see this playing out is you charge, demonettes or seekers or fiends or something, right, into the enemy, and you also charge a demon prince into them, a winged demon prince. Winged demon prince does mortals on the charge. It does a bunch of damage to them. Then your demon unit activates first, takes out the, finishes off the unit, especially if it's like a crappy little screening unit, like a cultist unit or something like that. You'll shred through it. And then you go, okay, cool. I'm now going to charge this demon prince further into your lines. It's going to do impact mortals again, and then it's going to hit you. Now you can, if say for example, you don't think you would kill everything there, you can actually flip this the other way around. So you could attack with, do impact mortals, attack with the demon prince. You don't quite kill it, and then your demon unit finishes it off, whatever you're in combat with, and then you can still charge. You just won't get to fight again. So you want to be maybe you charge into a vehicle or something and do a bunch of impact mortals to it, but then you've tagged it, and so it can't get the angle that it wants to get on something else, or has to shoot you at -1 in combat, or can't use its blast into the combat to shoot the prince. Right? There's lots of advantages there. So you're gonna want to. There's gonna be that balance of like, okay, I'm going to attack with the prince first to make sure that this unit gets killed by the demonettes, right? But then if you roll high on suddenly you roll like all sixes to hit and you double the number of attacks because you've got sustained hits because they're next to each other. There could be an issue there. It's like, oh crap, I've now just killed you with the Emperor's Children unit and not the demon unit, which means I can't use this strat. So it's one of these things that you could get snookered by good rolls, you could get snookered by bad rolls, depending on which order you decide to try and do it in. And it's like, oh, okay. So it is one of these things where it's risky. So there is upsides and downsides. But one of these ways you can get around some of this riskiness, if you've, for example, if you do impact mortals, they're going to pull the models away from your demon unit that charged in to try and minimize the amount of attacks you get. Well, then you can spend 2 CP to pile in and consolidate 6. It's expensive, but so you're not going to be using it willy-nilly, right? This is 2 CP to do a thing that Eldar can do for one of their tokens that they get multiple of a turn, battle round. So it is quite an expensive stratagem, but 2 CP pile in consolidate is very, very useful. There's going to be so many times where you're like, okay, I hit you here. I'm then gonna, maybe you don't do the charge strat, or you've used the charge strat over there and you've got loads of CP, and you're like, okay, well, I can charge multiple units in over here. My Emperor's Children unit is going to kill you here, and then this Demonette unit is going to pile in 6 into the next unit and kill that unit, and then consolidate 6 onto this objective, and you've got 10 OC on the objective all of a sudden. There's or you do that vice versa with maybe a Infractor Lord squad that's going to hit really hard. You hit the screen, and then you go, okay, cool. I'm now going to pile in 6 to the unit behind, hit that really hard with the Emperor's Children unit, and so on. And this could be a way that you're trying to get around fights first. It makes it more difficult. They have to separate if their units are they have to be like really close so they could do heroics, or they have to be really far apart so you can't like pile in 6 into them. So it's a very useful strat. Once again, 2 CP, so I feel like there's chances you go, and if your opponent plays around it somehow, there's chances you could go a game or two without using it. Right? It's one of these things. The demon advance and charge strat, so 1 CP. If you can advance a demon in the demon unit in the movement phase, and then in the charge phase, if your unit that you want to charge with the demon unit has an Emperor's Children unit already in combat with it, which means if you've charged that one first, or you already, you stayed in combat, which let's be honest, with Emperor's Children, you probably fall back in charging somewhere else. But if you're already in combat, or you charged and successfully charged first with that other unit, you can then trigger advance and charge for 1 CP. So it's a loopholey thing of like, okay, you can't just use advance and charge. You have to have something else going into that combat, and that might be overkill. But once again, it will help you set up that Emperor's Children unit, Demon unit. Both are in combat situation, but your opponent can pull the models for if it's like a Demon Prince, the opponent can pull the models that have been impacted first. Because like you charge with the Demon Prince, impact mortals happen, pulls them out of engagement range, which means that you would be able to obviously fight with the Demon Prince by piling into the rest of the unit and fight, but it might mean that you can't advance and charge a demon unit. So you got to watch out for that anti synergy as well. Because your opponent would just like, haha, now you can't do the combo that you're trying to do. So what? Because obviously then the demon unit can't charge at all. So do watch out for that one. And then we've got a nice standard one that you probably will use almost every game unless your opponent doesn't have any shooting. But you just have a nice 1 CP and -1 to hit and shooting. Which is going to be very crucial when they're trying to, like, maybe there's a mark for death target or bring it down or something. You just have, there's something that they really want to kill and they have to deal with, and you just go nope, which is quite nice. So then we've got a 2 CP uppy downy demoness with 6-inch deep strike. This stratagem is literally just 2 put together, and that's why it costs 2. So it only works in demonettes. It's 2 CP up front, so you can't like spend 1 at the end of your opponent's turn and then 1 when you get it in your turn. You have to have 2 at the start. But you bring up the demonettes, you then put the demonettes back on the table, 6 inches away from the enemy. And I'm just going to double check. I think you might also need to be near some Emperor's Children model. So yeah, you need to be 6 inches away from your enemy, but within 9 of an Emperor's Children unit as well. So there's so many hoops to jump through, but there's just going to be times that you do this, especially late game. You're probably going to leave like a Demonette unit near the back. It's going to have, it's going to be covering your Noise Marines or just holding your home objective and screening. And then you're just going to go, okay, I'm running out of demon stuff at the front. My opponent's been focusing them. This is like my go turn. I need to have some stuff in the right place. Okay, Demonettes, up you come. You're going in. And that could be a really crucial moment. And it's really useful to have that. Obviously, you need to call your shot at the end of your opponent's turn, so you're not using it as a reactive thing for like tactical missions. But there's going to be those situations where, and you'll see you've got quite a bit of speed where you're just like, okay, I need multiple stuff over here to deal with what's there, and you can just throw a Demon Prince over there or a spoiler alert Warp Walker Infractor unit, and then Deep Strike next to it, and then you've got that combo of, okay, now both sides are getting sustained hits, and also you've got potential combo to charge through if you've got more CP. It's quite a CP hungry set of strats when you do want to use it. You can use like 5 CP in the space of a battle round if needed, or if you had access to it. But also, like, you might just be spending a lot of CP on reroll charges and reroll advances or something like that, or an Overwatch here or there, because sustained hits Noise Marines with Overwatch is pretty nice. So right, we've talked a lot about the strats. Let's talk about a list now. I've played this detachment the least out of the detachments that I've tried, right? Because there is some that I haven't played at all yet. This is the list that, I mean, I've listened to some of my friends and seen some lists that people have put out. This is my current one, and I'll sort of explain, obviously, my thought process on all of it, like how I'm sort of setting up the units, and what to do with them. So you have Lucius. I mean, that's standard. It's really good. Nice lone op. Fight first. Just piece that just sort of sits in the middle of your army and just is very, very annoying for your opponent to deal with. And he comes out at the right time. Him with sustained hits when you have full rerolls to hit is pretty nice. Like it's not crazy, right? You fish for sixes. It can pop off, but it will increase his damage quite a bit. So yeah, Lucius, strong pieces. I don't think I really need to explain much more about that. Winged Demon Prince. There's only one in this list. I'm so tempted to like swap it out for like just go three and just go ham with it, but like it seems like a more of a precision piece in this army than in other ones where it's just a stat check. I think you don't need to do as many mortals in the charge phase as necessary. You've got this way of doing, two sets of charges, so you're sort of you're babysitting the winged prince a little bit more. You're not just throwing it out willy nilly just to clear something, but you can might throw it out willy nilly to clear something and then get that charge into the next thing and at least be threatening that at all times to force your opponent to play weird. So, yep, then you've got the three Lord Exultants. One of them has Warp Walker. We haven't gone through the all of the enhancements, but these are the two that are in the list. They are insanely good enhancements. There's no way you're writing a list without these two in. So Warp Walker is 6-inch advance auto and lets you move through models and things like that. So they just suddenly you're very, very fast, right? Like consistent speed. So you come out of a rhino, you go 13 inches, so that's 16 inches from the rhino. Like on UKTC, that's from like your home to your opponent's expansion to the other side of the wall. Like that is insane. That is insane speed. And that's what I mean by like if you pick up the demonettes and then you yeet that squad somewhere, and then drop the demonettes down next to it, you suddenly have this nice like hammer combo that's like fast over there. And same with like the winged prince, you could do that. You could just send the winged prince down a lane, because obviously winged prince is with an advance is 15 to 20 inches, and then drop the demonettes next to it. So then you've got two, and then possessed blade. Possessed blade is nuts. Like what we even talking about here? Like there's no way you don't take possessed blade. It's like, oh, you get +1 damage, dev wounds with hazardous. Like, okay, hazardous, I could kill myself. But he's also got 5 wounds, isn't it? So it's not like he's killing himself with one activation. So he hits so hard. It is only the one weapon that gets that stuff, so it doesn't give an extra damage to the extra attacks or dev wounds to the extra attacks. But it also means he doesn't take 2 hazardous, because that would also apply that way. The 5 attacks, which could go to 8 attacks. Let me just double check it doesn't give an attack as well, because that would be even better. But I don't think it does. That would be it's just +1 to the damage. So you go up to 8 attacks. You're hitting on 2s. You're gonna have sustained hits. You're gonna have lethal hits. But then also you can have rerolls to wound if your opponent's on an objective because you're in an infractor unit. So you're suddenly getting this weird shenanigans where it's like, okay, this you're also getting rerolls to wound on a damage-free dev wound weapon that also is AP3. He hits so hard. There's not much that's going to be standing up to him. So it's really cool to see. I mean, yeah, if you don't roll any sixes, you're a bit sad, but like he just does so much damage, and even on the non-go turn, 5 attacks at damage free with sustain and lethal is pretty nice. And then we've got obviously one normal Lord Exultant. They're still very good. 3 units of Infractors are going with them. We've got 2 Rhinos. We'll talk about the Rhino situation as we get down to the Rhinos in the list. So there is 2 Lord Cacophonus. This is the best attachment for Lord Cacophonus. I would be tempted to try and force 3 in, but it just seems like it just doesn't work out for me. I mean, like, you could drop a unit of Tormentors, put a third Cacophonist in just for that like craziness. So I like putting one in reserve with the Noise Marines because coming on from reserve and you've got sustained fives, assuming you set it up right, you probably have some demonettes in reserve as well. So then you sort of deep strike in demonettes where you need them within 6 of this like strat reserve. You just come in and you've got noise marines with sustained fives because cacophonist gives them sustained normally, and then obviously the mini grenade from him. Like it's just a lot of damage. You go from noise marines being like they can pop off or not to like they're gonna pop off. Like 6 shots that should get 6 hits but could spike into way more with the sustains on fives. Like if you just roll slightly well, you can end up with like 8 or 9 hits from 6 shots of strength 10, AP2, 3 damage, ignores cover. It's just so good. You're just able to pick up a lot of things. You've got 2 of these units, so one of them's probably going to start on the board. So actually, we'll go for it now. So the way I see playing with these rhinos is obviously you set them up in positions where you can scout back to safety or you can scout forward. So you're sort of in that middle thing, as far forward as you can go with scout and to be able to be scout back to safety, right? There is a safe spot that the opponent can't just pop your rhino turn 1. To do that, obviously you need to not have any noise marines in the rhino. To be fair, when you have a cacophonist, he doesn't really fit in the rhino anyway. You don't really want him to go in the rhino in the same way. As in, like you can do it, it's just not necessarily as efficient. And you probably will a lot of the time on the first turn because there probably won't be something that you're like, oh my god, I need to blow this up with a Lord Cacophonist Noise Marine unit. So you want to keep them protected. So assuming there's not, 3 whirlwinds on the other side or manticores or something that are going to indirect and kill your noise marines. Even then, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are they using those? So you have the noise marines on the table, set up in terrain, probably like hanging with Lucius in that middle ruin on whatever deployment type you're using. Reasonably close to where the rhino will finish scouting. Like you want each unit to be close-ish to a rhino. And so then what you do is you run them at the so let's say right, you go first, right? You scout forward because your tormentors have made it so you've got space to scout potentially. It might not happen, depends on attack and defender, depends on all this stuff. So you make sure that the rhino's in a position where it's like, okay, there's a decent place to scout to. But if you go first, you just scout straight forward, right? And then you advance the noise marines into the back of the rhino if there's a cacophonist in there. So you're going to have to drop out infractors, right? So there's going to be an infractor squad that's just going to drop out the way, probably go into like stage into a middle ruin somewhere, set up to be in a nice position to charge out later. And then you can hop the noise marines into the rhino. You can then advance the rhino, pop round a corner, shoot 2 blastmasters out the top. And that's a standard strategy you can use in any detachment. It lets you get silly angles turn 1 if necessary, which means your opponent, you point them out to your opponent. Obviously, at the start, you let him know that this is you're capable of this. Because 2 things: we don't got your opponents, right? Like we're not going to go like let opponents set up and then be like, oh look, I can get a rhino here and a rhino there, and suddenly I've just shot and killed a bunch of stuff in your deployment zone. We don't do that. But because also we're going to be doing that, there's the second part is they obviously then have to play around it. Maybe, I mean, they could choose not to, right? And they could be like, I'm going to go first, I'll just be fine, or I'm okay with you eating a rhino full of noise marines right into my face if that's the only position that works in. You got obviously don't do it if it's a bad move. But you have this situation where you've got rhinos that can get angles and threaten angles, and you just don't end up doing it if you don't need to. And turn 1, you might not have like a situation where you want to run the noise marines in because you want to probably just run the rhino onto an objective to an action or something, and there's nothing to shoot because you've gone first. So it's like it's threatening the situation to then force your opponent to make suboptimal positionings and things like that. Say if you didn't have the threat for those things, and then you just chill. But also like you can just poke rhinos around corners of ruins, shoot 2 blastmasters out the top, If you've got some demon stuff nearby, they'll get sustained ones. They don't get the crit fives, even if they've got a cacophonist with them, because he's in the rhino. It's the rhino shooting, which obviously doesn't have a Lord Cacophonist attached to it. Um, so you do that, and then if they clap back and shoot the rhino, the guys get out into the safety of whatever ruin it's hiding behind. And then they can move forward and then obliterate the thing that killed your rhino. So that's one of the main strategies to do this. This is why my coterie list has 3 rhinos, is to do all these sort of shenanigans and have like spare rhinos just to move around, or have to keep the infractors in. Because with this list, the biggest problem is what do you do with the infractors? Now you might just yeet them at the opponent. One of the units probably will go into something in the mid ward, maybe. Like it just depends on what you're up against and what the situation is. Um, I have one tormentor unit, so we've got 2 tormentor units. My friend who helped with this list has instead only one tormentor unit has spawn in that place, because spawn are really good with the reactive move. I mean, if you've watched my other videos, you understand why I'm not a huge fan of spawn. Not because their rules aren't good; the rules are fantastic, but it's just we don't have I don't need what they do. I don't feel like they do enough to be not tormentors. Especially if you don't have that 5 point spare, because they are 5 points more tormentors, then take the spawn. But tormentors are just so useful, just infiltrating sticky. Right, you just control that mid board a bit more. And with this, it's like you always want to stick your home. I might use demonettes to screen at home, but yeah, the so I think the way that I like playing this, and it does depend on what you're up against. If there's loads of chaff and pressure and stuff like that you're going to try and wall you in your deployment zone, you probably don't put as much stuff in reserve. But I like putting a unit of demonettes in reserve, um, 1 unit of Lord Cacophonist in reserve, but you could put 2 units of Demonettes in reserve. I think 2 units of Demonettes is probably you do that a lot against a lot of armies. There's 1 or 2 units of Demonettes in reserve, 1 unit of Noise Marines in reserve, and then infractors and rhinos. And yeah, it's all about just like sending infractors out to stage into good places, safe-ish places, and then you can reactively bring in demonettes. If you've got an army pressuring you, you probably, or you need to screen those of the backfield, you're going to be using demonettes there, because they've got fight first, so they can heroic fight first, which is really nice. Lucius is obviously very good at doing that as well, but it lets you sort of spread out and or screen your opponent. There's lots of uses for demonettes. The 5 seekers, however, different. So they scout, so they can go with your rhino. They are incredibly fast. Yes, they're mounted, so they have to go round terrain, which is a pain, but they're very good at clearing screens. You just literally like it's a 90-point unit just to run, clear a screen somewhere, or run with, it keeps you can run with like an early Demon Prince pressure to capitalize on an opponent's mistake, or a unit of infractors maybe yeets forward and you want to try and do a combo there where you like charge it even more on turn 1. It just gives a lot of like threats of, oh, you've got that like chaff unit that's just 10 cultist bodies. Well, I can clear that with my seekers, and then yeet forward, so then they have to play around that. Or, oh, I can get that rhino into that position. Well, I just chucked a bunch of seekers next to it, because obviously you're not deep striking your army forward and um, turn 1. So it just lets you put more pressure on that turn 1. And there might be games where you just run it at your opponent's deployment zone and just block an angle so that they can't. If you put the bases out and string them, you can just block some of their movement stuff and just not let them come through. So it's their little tech piece to just be there, like, okay, early game, I can just get the sustained hits wherever I want it to be, or annoy my opponent, or just clear a screen, or go do an action somewhere. It might be the case where it's like, okay, you've you need to do a cleanse over there, and you don't have tormentors over that side at the start of the game, so it's like, okay, I'll just eat that way, or get into an angle, chase down something that your opponent sort of set up defensively that might be doing in action. Um, there's a lot of utility with their speed once you get round the terrain, and obviously it just means that you can throw something out quickly turn 1 and just have some unit with them to go, okay, we're getting sustained hits. So yeah, that's my sort of run through of the list. If you have any more questions, please put them in the comments. I'll be checking them on my personal YouTube and the Black Crow YouTube. Just a reminder, like sponsors, the all the links are in the description. But check out Terrain Forge, Glasshammer, and we now have a new one, which I believe is called Trident, which is obviously on the screen right now below me. Which they do cases. So if you're looking at like getting a new army and you need a new army case for it, or you want to upgrade what your current like case setup is, do check them out. Use our discount code and enjoy it. Their quality is really good. But yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for listening to me. I will, be listening in the comments. So, let me know what you think. Um, if you feel like it, throw a super thanks my way. I would massively appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Cheers.